Connecticut Democratic Senator Chris Murphy. Thank you for being with us.
Of course.
Just on this topic, I know you have a lot of differences with the president, but on this, is this a clear win?
Well, it's really important that we have a ceasefire. It's important that these hostages are coming home. And I congratulate the negotiators on getting this done. There's no politics about this moment, as you're going to see some very tearful reunions tomorrow, hopefully, as these hostages are released. But you watch those devastating images of what Gaza looks like today, and it's both heartbreaking and infuriating that this deal has been on the table for over a year. And it's been Benjamin Netanyahu, because of his political considerations domestically, trying to protect himself, has frustrated the ability to find peace and to get the hostages home far before today. So, again, this will be a good week. But as you have reported, there are big issues to come. Israel is not fully pulling out of Gaza. There is no clear path forward on what the security and governance force is going to look like inside that country. There's certainly a risk of hostilities beginning again if we don't build on this first phase and come to some decisions about what Gaza looks like heading into next year.
And President Biden wasn't willing to put this kind of pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu. President Trump has. Your point is that's got to be sustained pressure to see this all the way through. Am I understanding you?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think the barrier here has been Netanyahu, and Netanyahu is only going to move if he thinks that his relationship with the United States is at risk. And so clearly the pressure is going to have to continue to be strong and constant.
Now, let me ask you about the other diplomacy that needs to happen just up the street, frankly. You have called on Democrats to stiffen their spines to stand up to the president of the United States. At what point, though, does this pain become too much in terms of the cost of the shutdown? And when are Democrats going to show some flexibility on this?
Well, I listened to the vice president, and he's just not living in reality. Well, because there's no negotiations happening right now because Republicans are boycotting those negotiations. They are boycotting negotiations to reopen the government because they are desperate to raise premiums on people in this country by 75% in order to finance their tax cut for the wealthy. Their only priority is protecting the billionaire class and the corporate class. The other reason the House of Representatives isn't in town right now trying to reopen the government, because they are about to have enough votes to pass a resolution mandating the release of the Epstein files. So J.D. Vance and Donald Trump's #1 priority is protecting billionaires, protecting corporations, and raising premiums, raising health care costs by 75% on American citizens. So, yes, I think that Democrats should say, if you want our votes for a budget, it can't be a corrupt budget. It can't be a budget that is going to devastate the lives of middle-class families in this country in order to protect and reward billionaires. That's a pretty reasonable request.
You're talking about the premiums that will increase an average of about $1,000, I believe, for those who are using some of these.
Well, that's the average, but in Connecticut, some families will see a $25,000 increase in premiums. And again, in order to afford a $270,000 tax cut for the richest families in this country.
Because also it wasn't dealt with earlier when Democrats were in leadership here. But you did hear the vice president say when it came to health care, the administration's open to a discussion. We want to lower insurance premiums. That was a quote there. Did you hear any chance at an opening?
I mean, there are no negotiations happening, in large part because the House of Representatives isn't even here. They've been on an unprecedented 5-week recess because they do not want to risk their billionaire tax cut. And they also don't want to talk about the president's lawlessness. I mean, that's the other thing that we have to talk about in this budget. If we're going to fund this administration, we need to fund an administration that is paying attention to the law. I would be a sucker, Margaret, to vote for a budget that allows the president to then go and spend money only in states that are run by Republicans and spend no money in states that are run by Democrats.
But this is just the 7-week deal that we're talking about at this point, the short-term
Correct. The
funding.
The long-term budget that we pass ultimately has to require that the president not engage in mass-scale corruption. But a short-term agreement, certainly is not going to fix all of the problems that exist right now in the way the president is running the country.
But you have been critical in the past of the tactic of choosing to shut down the government. You were in 2018. You were back in 2013 when it was a discussion over health care. This is what you said in 2018.
The future of the American healthcare system was a legitimate public policy issue, as is the security of our borders. But we shouldn't be having the discussion amidst a government shutdown, trying to use our nation's security and all of these federal workers and the work that they do as hostages.
Aren't you doing today exactly what you were criticizing then?
No, that was a fight over sort of the long-term structure of the American healthcare system. This is an emergency. In about a month, premiums are going to go up by 75%. And we have to make a decision whether this budget is going to allow for that to happen or to stop it. What is happening in Chicago right now is an emergency. What is happening at the FCC as they try to shut down free speech in this country is an emergency. So we have a responsibility in this upcoming budget to prevent disaster for families whose premiums are about to go up and to address the destruction of our democracy and the rule of law that's happening all over this country. Those are urgent matters.
You do not trust that if you vote to open the government and then have a separate conversation about health care, that there will be any follow through?
Absolutely not.
Because that is what the vice president was arguing here, that it's like Democrats aren't even saying what it is they want to negotiate over.
No, you cannot trust this administration. And I think it's important to remember that we didn't have a shutdown when Joe Biden was president. And the reason is because they didn't play the kind of games that Republicans are playing. Joe Biden and Democrats, when we were in charge of the Senate, negotiated with Republicans and avoided shutdowns. This shutdown is happening because Republicans are desperate to protect their billionaire tax cut. And all we are asking, we're not asking to fix the entire American health care system. We're simply saying don't make things worse by raising premiums by people, in some cases by $25,000 a year.
But the minority leader gave an interview to Punchbowl this week. I mean, there is just also the bare bones politics of this. And in that interview, he said, every day this goes on, every day gets better for us. The Speaker of the House said that was a callous statement.
Well, they're sort of desperately trying to spin what Democrats are saying. Listen, our priority is the American people. And yes, it is true as every day.
But you've been critical of Schumer in the past. Back in March, you were saying we got to stand up and do something. Is this about the tactic of just saying, hey, we're standing up?
No, as every day goes on, there are more Republicans that are breaking with J.D. Vance and President Trump and saying, yes, we should be willing to sit down and talk about the healthcare crisis that is about to visit this country. There are more Republicans that are breaking with the president's regime of censorship. So as every day goes on, there are more Republicans that are willing to stand up and protect the American people, to try to stop the president's destruction of democracy. And hopefully at some point there will be enough Republicans to join us and try to protect people's pocketbooks, which are about to be destroyed. Their economic livelihoods are about to be destroyed by these enormous increases in healthcare costs.
Well, but in the meantime, there's also the not getting a paycheck problem.
Where's the House of Representatives, Margaret? They're on vacation. The only way you can solve a shutdown is to have two parties that are in Washington negotiating. This is pretty simple. Republicans are boycotting negotiations. They're in the witness protection program all over the country, refusing to even show up for work. If they're serious about sitting down and reopening the government, they would be in Washington.